evening, Final Fantasy I Randomizer fans! I am your host, Kyu Kitsuki, on another great Final Fantasy I Spring Tournament Monte Chaos Casino round. This is week 5, and we are doing a repeat of Fire because we have 6 weeks in the Swiss brackets today. Now, we've got a matchup between Syraniss and Avos, and it's going to be a hype match. We've got some default plays here. We've got a black belt play from Syraniss. Syraniss is probably going to be looking for a great grind tile, but still having the option of running a Thief in the case of not finding a great grind tile, Thief being one of the best mid-game damage dealers in the game. However, Avos on the other side, running a more traditional comp with a fighter, red mage, black mage, black mage. Darren, how are you doing this week?
Doing really good. Good to see you again, Caillou. And yeah, I like these two-party compositions. Avos, I think, has been mainly running Fighter Rainbow, so he's breaking out of the Fighter Rainbow a little bit, throwing in a black mage instead of that white mage, which can have a lot more offense, a lot more offense. It limits your defensive capabilities depending on where spells land, but it's good to see him trying some new things. Avos is really a new runner, where Syraniss is a little bit more experienced. It'll be interesting to see how they match up.
Well, I believe that these runners are running again the week of Fire. So we have our standard 3 incentive locations, with that being the Titan Shroud, the Ice Cave, and Ordeals. But since we're running Fire Week, we also have the Red Dragon Chest in the Volcano to be incentivized. These runners are going to be taking off relatively soon. But the other thing that these runners need to pay attention to is we have 2 loose items this week, and a loose canal. Now, the canal early on is fairly typical. I mean, I've seen it a lot of times in Marsh. I've seen it in TOF, Temple of Fiends. It's very, very likely to find it very early and break out into the open sea. But we've also seen some odd seeds where you get the canoe early, and then you have to dive through something like ice or volcano early on to find that canal to get outside. So, I don't know what I want to see. Personally, I think that I enjoy the seeds that you find the canal early as opposed to the canoe or floater early, just because it allows for a lot of just variance in plays. Between making some very early dives, if you find an early oxtail going up to, let's say, a sea shrine visit quite early. And it also unlocks the Circle of Sages, which, again, with another key item right there, you can find a lot of open sea areas, like the Chime, and then immediately having to go to a Mirage dive. Always a fun play, always a cool play to make. But these runners will be getting started soon. And anything else you really want to say about this, Darren, as we get this match about to start?
Yeah, I did just drop the gate, so they should be getting started real soon. But I love an early Marsh play if it comes down to it. But I agree with you. Getting the canal early just opens everything up, and you can see a lot of route divergence. A lot of people can go different ways, which makes it exciting to see just how open this randomizer can be sometimes.
Indeed, indeed. So, as these runners are just about to start, we have the legendary Black Belt Thief argument against a fighter. That is the key thing that I'm going to be watching out for this seed. Will you find an early tail? Because the early tail makes that Thief great. Will you find an early grind tile? Early grind tile makes the Black Belt great. And that fighter is old standby. It is what I call the egg timer in a lot of these seeds, because it can get through a lot of nasty seeds at fairly low levels, and that is just a beautiful thing to find. Will Lifelock? Will we have a Lifelock seed? We have no white mages in this party, so, keep an eye out at that level 1, that level 3, that level 4. Pretty much those are the key ones to find life early on as Syraniss and Avos get started, as they immediately go and check the magic shops. We have Fog and Cure 4. Cure 4 is at level 4, and we got Temper in black. So, Cure 4 is learnable after class change. However, having to deal with Quad X and Temper. Temper level 1, always great to find, because Temper charges go faster than fast charges. Whenever you're doing end tier running, your Temper charges, you want at a lower level because you want more charges. You have to use 2 or 3 maybe per character. So, Temper being lower than fast is always a nice thing to find.
Yeah, and both of these runners will have a ton of Temper. They'll have 18 Temper for Syraniss and as much as 27 tempers for Avos, so you don't have to worry about wasting it on the bosses in Temple of Fiends at the end here. But that Quad X will do a lot of work in the beginning. Anything under 300 health, it kills immediately. Anything that's not undead, or the only things that really resist it are the golems, so you can get a lot of work done, and Garland is pretty much a guaranteed kill. I don't think he can roll over 300 HP in these settings, so they should be good to go for the Temple of Fiends up here.
So we see an early play by Syraniss just going straight for Garland, clearing him out. And that is actually a pretty smart move, because you can see if Garland has anything particularly nasty, if you want to go back and grab the chest, or if you want to just go forward and skip those chests. Get the chime from the king and the herb from the princess today. And we have Avos checking the loose chests in Topher. So far, I think we found just money, a wooden home, and a pure. So Syraniss getting the luck of the draw. We don't have anything like a loose canal there this early.
Yeah, and I like what Avos did. He found 2 cabins so he could save it beforehand, and he's got another one for afterwards, or if you find something great in the Temple of Fiends. So he at least has the safety where he could have reset out if he didn't like it, or if anything nasty came up and hit him, he was able to go right back and go right in and kill Garland. So it gives you a little bit of options going into that Temple of Fiends.
So we got some people in chat. We got Krypton In and Signport, Sports Hefe, Lackeys, Simple Sarah. Hello to everyone. As we have Avos grabbing the chime and the herb. But Quad X is a great spell, as we see level 2 with Lightning 3 available, which is always nice to see. Checking the white magic, potentially for Fade. And we have Life. We have Life available at level 2. That's learnable by all Knights and Red Wizards. That is a huge find. We are not going to be Life logged today. But Quad X works basically by saying that do you have 300 health or less, and do not resist death. Always works. It's a great spell.
That Life early just adds so much safety to this race. It'll make everything a little bit faster because you can dive a little bit sooner and not have to worry about not being able to go through with a full party. You know, you might have to bring some more heal potions, but at least you can bring your characters back.
As we find a crown from the Pilot Lord Bicky himself. So, Bicky has taken a plunder, stolen the royal crown, and now we have to return that crown in an epic quest. Now, at this point, I think we're going to see either a route divergence here, whether or not you want to go immediately down to turn in that crown because you have to go park your boat in Elfland, or you can start cleaning up some of the loose chests here. We have 3 loose chests here in Matoya's cave. We have 3 loose chests that Syraniss didn't check, but unfortunately doesn't have anything in Temple of Fiends. And we have 2 loose chests in Dwarf Cave. Now, the safest bet at this point is to go straight and follow your incentive items. Turn in the herb to the prince, turn in the crown to the kindly old king in the Northwest Castle. But again, you can make a gamble here at this point if you wish as well. Also with Lightning 3, you could potentially do a grind at the Peninsula of Power. However, a lot of those enemies tend to roll up on health, and with only 2 casters in Syraniss' side, it's a little bit more difficult as Avos picks up the crown from the pirates.
Yeah, did you see that there's some nice cheap armor in the armor shop there too? Gold bracelets are only about 9,000 this seed, so I'm sure they'll be back here to buy those eventually.
In this seed, the best armor that you can buy at any shop for the chest armor is the gold bracelets. Pro rings are pretty much the other thing. Definitely make a note of that. Other notable armors I always like to note are chainmail for red mages and fighters, and potentially you may want to use a silver bracelet if you have like a thief, a black belt, stuff like that to give them some early protection.
I agree with Simple Sarah in the chat there. I don't like skipping Matoya or Dwarf's Cave early. I probably would go and check those before I even turn in the herb, just because if Canal is in one of those, you know that you've got the world open to you. Whereas if it's not, then you know you're probably going to be diving Marsh unless your turn-ins turn into the canoe and the floater.
Yeah, I mean, definitely an option. Again, points of route diversions. I'm on the opposite opinion. I try and avoid Matoya as long as I can, especially when I have open incentives that I can check that aren't too far up. Because Either those incentives are going to hold progression, or we're going to have a loose canal. Those are the two options at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this so much fun and a lot of fun to race, is because you can have so many different opinions on what you want to do routing, and there's no one who's necessarily right. You might be right for that seed, but you're not going to be right every single time.
As we have Avos checking Matoyas, Syraniss is actually making their way to check the 2 chests in Dwarves, so some interesting plays coming out right off. As we find a loose tail, that is our first loose item. We have loose tail in Matoyas, and the loose adamant. Wow. Okay, so Simple and Sarah, you are right today. With a pro ring, and adamant, and a tail, finding the 2 loose items immediately on Matoyas. Matoyas stacked today.
So before we started, when I rolled the seed, I said that I pretty much have only rolled jet seeds, and I think I may have done that again, even without having canoe and floater already. Having 2 loose in Matoya can make life so much quicker, especially for Syraniss, who's not reliant on gear as much as Avos, with needing a sword and some armor for that fighter.
Yeah, it's definitely something. Now the question here is, at this point, do you go straight to turn in that adamant, or do you go and do the herb crown turn it?
I would probably go turn in adamant first, just to see what those 2 chests are, especially with it being the top one. If it was TNT, I might debate about doing crown and herb and hope one of those is the canoe, so I can just canoe up to the dwarf cave.
But we get our prince chest, and the prince has the legendary bottle. So we got some fairy water. As we are going through, not really enough money to pick up those level 3 and level 4 spells, but we did get a Raidor sighting, as a blacksmith held the key. Great find right here. You can check all the chests in the bottom near Narek, and you can also later on check the Corneria chest. We get the power gauntlet from the kindly old King Ash, and the Elflin chest.
Yeah, and as Chad has pointed out, this could make it interesting. Syraniss might just go straight for Marsh Cave, and they may need to find the canal in Marsh Cave anyways. Actually, they probably will, but he's gonna have to go to Matoya's at some point, and delaying it is just gonna make him check a lot more chests along the way.
Yeah, at that point, that is a big change, though, with the adamant being loose in Matoya's going into the key. We already know that we found the 2 loose items, but the canal is still loose. And at this point, key could potentially be in progression, either in Marsh Cave or in some of these loose chests in the woods.
Yeah, that is true. The key opens up almost twice as many chests in the inner sea without having a canoe, so there are a lot more locations open to Avos right now.
Ice 3 being at level 3 black looked about, I believe it was about 1,500, and we got exit at level 3. Unfortunately, that is white magic locked, with 1 and 3 being the only slots that you can get with this particular party comp from either of these players. And we're checking the chests in Cornerian Castle. So far we got some decent money that you can be able to turn in. With 30k, that is a huge find. We still have not found the item shop item, because Elflin did not have it either. So getting that 30k though means that you can make exactly 1 trip, get all of your spells out of Elflin, and that is huge.
Yeah, and if Avos decides he could go and get 3 to 4 gold bracelets, it would use almost all your money, but you're set for armor for pretty much the rest of the game.
Life 2 was in slot 2, so again, white magic locked. But, you can still just make all these plays right now. Syraniss is going back and trying to pick up anything that he thinks is useful. Again, cannot get exit, and that is just a shame, especially if you're going to do a marsh dive. there's another 2 locations that I did forget about. Is you have the 3 chests here in Keylog Topher. It's definitely one of those that is one of those where you have to keep it in mind. That tends to slip even my mind. It's one of those where you don't see it a lot because it is a trap tile check block. But with metal slimes on there, oh, that is massive. If you find fire damage, fade, or nuke, that's a grind tile for that black mage. I'm sorry, black belt.
Yeah, and if they're not too tough, Avos might take a couple of levels here too, just because get your party up to. Oof, looks like they are not very nice.
Some bigger swings that we saw there. Looks like they're swinging in between, I'm gonna roughly estimate between 60 and 120, but that's just kind of what I saw.
Yeah, I think if you get to about level 10, it's a decent spot to get a couple of levels, but right now he's just trying to get past them to check those chests. Unfortunately, you don't have exit, so you have to take it twice to be able to get these 2 chests on top, or if they're anything decent that you want to keep.
Yeah, and unfortunately, at this point, we've burnt through over 200 HP in these slimes. They're pretty hardy. You're gonna need a couple fire 2s, a fire 3, a nuke, or a fade at this point to really efficiently clean. As we are checking these last couple chests, again, going with the run strats here, at least they are not unrunnable. That'd be very devastating if there is something here and they are. And that is a huge find once again. Key locked Topher, top right chest. First ribbon found.
Yeah, and Syraniss is going to be right on Avos' heels here, going to do all the checks that Avos has done. Avos still hasn't turned in the herb and the crown yet, but we know that neither one of those is going to help him progress right now. So Avos maybe has a slight lead, but Syraniss will catch up really quick.
So at this point, we have checked the majority of these locations. The key lock locations have been checked outside of Prince, and at this point, I think we are bound to go to that place that we don't want to.
Yeah, the only other one is Northwest Castle, which is, there's 3 chests there, it could have the canal, and if nothing else, it's got 3 spike tiles that they can at least check, maybe make Marsh a whole lot safer if anything is in there.
Nick in chat, hashtag always Marsh. Man after my own heart there with sheer disappointment. Marsh Cave, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous places in the game. You have to typically go with it always with early levels. It has one of the most diverse amount of enemies in the game, especially with the amount of size. The only place that really has more are your Mirage Sky combo. It is quite up there for just a variance of enemies, and they tend to appear in packs of fairly large, in fact, 4 to 6 on most of those packs. Typically, you're going to find an unrunnable. Typically, there's going to be at least one that has nasty spells, and lobsters pretty much always, scorpions pretty much always hit hard, so.
Yeah, and some of those packs have 4 different enemies, so if any of those 4 have, like, Blaze or even Scorch at the low levels, you can be in for a world of hurt. Syraniss did go and get the gold bracelets right away, so he's got armor for the rest of the game on his whole party. There's not a whole lot better things you can find for any of those characters. The thief you might put ice or flame armor on once he becomes a ninja just for some of the resistances, but other than that, gold bracelets are what he would be looking for the rest of the game. Yeah, it looks like Syraniss and Avos are pretty much the same spot right now. We might be seeing them holding hands all the way up to the northwest castle to check those last chests. And Syraniss is gonna be probably checking those chests and then going down to Marsh Cave if we don't find the canal.
Yeah, the only advantage that I see right now is with the prince having in the chest a flame armor, you get the best in slot absorption item for that fighter, which means that if you get physical damage down with a fighter in that first slot, it's going to absorb a lot of damage at this point. I believe it is 33 base armor for that particular thing, and it has a resistance to ice.
And Syraniss skips the chests up in Northwest Castle, so we'll see if Avos goes up and checks them. And if the canal's in there, it could be he could skip over Marsh completely. And we know there's no loose items in Marsh, but there could be good gear down there. So we'll see how that works out. All right, so Marsh is required.
Yeah, now the question is, where in Marsh is it going to be? You got any predictions there, Darren? You want to make any bets?
I'd love to see it in one of the linked chests on the top, just because it makes life so much easier if you know how they're linked to the bottom, but it could even be one of the Marsh locked, which is always spicy.
I'm going to want, for most troll, as is my nature, top right bottom, as it is traditionally the last chest checked by every run.
Ooh, Ice Sword and a Light Axe, which Syraniss left both of them there. But that Light Axe he can actually pick up on his way down if he wants to pretty easily.
Yeah, with a Red Mage, Ice Sword, very, very valuable later on. But, you know, it is also, having the Light Axe there is a weapon can be used by the fighter. We had red Ds in the trap tile on the bottom, so it looks like we're going to take some levels against these guys. I think we have fire using a Great Axe from the look of it. But those red Ds rolled up health today.
Yeah, and it looks like Avos, there was trolls and zombies, so he might go and fight those a little bit more, maybe get to level 10 before he goes to Marsh, just to give you a little bit of security, but we'll see what he decides to do. Oh, he's going to take the red Ds. And there's the canal in the second row in the second column room there with the two chests, and it's a nice early find, easy to get to compared to a lot of the chests down there, and it looks like Syraniss is just going to keep going and digging out the rest of the chests to make sure he doesn't miss anything.
So yeah, like, Red D has a base stat of 248 health. But we saw there that after a Lightning 3 that I believe hit for about 100 and Quad X did not connect, those red Ds had over 400 health, so they rolled up. With their max health being in this particular flag set being 570, since they are technically considered a boss. But we had Canal in the lower swamp, and Syraniss is out.
Yeah, it looks like he decided to check one more chest and decided just to get out of there for now, which is... Marsh is always a scary place, so good idea to get out of there as soon as you can.
So I love this play here by Avos, picking up both the light axe and the ice sword. They have the same amount of damage, 28. However, ice sword typically gets a little bit more hit rate than the light axe, but the light axe can only be used by the fighter. So putting the ice sword on the red mage and using the light axe on the fighter gives you 2 physical damage dealers if needed. But yeah, this is the tale of the scene. Let's give you a lot of just NPC turn-in items and whatnot, but no progression. You still gotta go mark.
Yeah, and even a lot of the turn-ins that they have, like the tail and the bottom or bottle, are airship locked, so there hasn't opened up too much to them yet. You'll probably see Syraniss going to Crescent Lake here, because that's the free incentive item which is open to him. And then, you know, from there, it's almost got to be Oxyel or Canoe over at Crescent Lake in order to... Actually, I think it's got to be Canoe over at Crescent Lake to open it.
It can actually be Canoe or Ruby, is the 2 that it can be.
Yep, yeah, that makes
and
sense.
Floater.
Yeah, yep, that's right, because the Ruby would unlock 2 locations.
Canoe unlocks the waterfall at this point, it unlocks the ice cave, and it also unlocks the volcano chest. The floater unlocks the volcano chest, it unlocks the ice cave, and it unlocks the bottle at this point. And the Ruby unlocks Sarda and the Titan's Drove.
Oh, and Guelph points out, thank you for tracking today, Guelph, by the way, but points out that it could be the vendor item in OnRack as a possibility as well.
That is a good point. I did forget about that. Both the OnRack and the Crescent Lake shops have not been checked, so could still be a shop item here for progression.
Avos picks up his canal. Looks like he was debating about whether he wants to keep going or not, and does find the Naga waters down at the incentive chest there.
Well, I do appreciate the pun there, as waters tend to make the light warriors die.
Yeah, and I believe that he's got dice for all of the elementals in his game, and that's the one sprite change that he's made, because with the Monte Chaos Casino for this year, he wanted to do something to show the elemental changes.
But yeah, so far we've actually found both light axes. So, you know, they cast Harm 2, which is an AoE spell that can only be used against undead enemies. But it's nice because it gives you an early casting item. It's nice if you want to do an early ice dive. It's typically pretty good in Marsh Cave because there are a decent chunk of undead enemies. And it's also good in Earth Cave with a decent chunk of undead enemies.
Looks like Avos is going to clear out probably the unlocked chests in Marsh here. He might have forgotten that he has the key, which at least it's not hiding a loose item. It would really stink if Massme were in one of these 3 Marsh locked and he could have picked it up at 25 minutes and used it for the rest of the game.
But Invis 2 is in slot 2 of level 6, and if I'm remembering correctly, that is locked to these runners to see. And the Circle of Sages have the TNT. The last item I did actually forget about because we actually went down to Narek to check his key-locked room, but we did not actually turn in the blasting powder to him.
Yeah, and that just shows how many different incentive items and combinations there are out there. I mean, even with both of us running this game, there's so many different options that, like, TNT can both be a surprise and go, oh shoot, I forgot that was even a possibility at this point.
At that point, with the notification, again, that we still have not found that item shop item, at this point, you're making a gamble here. There are exactly 3 shops left in the game. There's OnRack, there's Gaia, and then there is Caravan. However, we can only check one of the 3 right now. So you could either make a 1 in 3 gamble, as in the Monte Chaos Casino, trying to hit that potential floater in the on-rack shop. Or you could make the safe play and go right back to Narek and see what he has.
Yeah, I like what Syraniss is doing here because at least here you know you're gonna get an incentive item, and so you have to go and follow this up. If you go to Onrek, you're really making a gamble in my mind.
Now, will we have our first Womp Womp? No, we have our Ruby. Could have been the Opal Cheerio. Luckily, it was not. Ruby unlocks 2 locations, the Titan's Trove, the chest in the bottom left of Titan's Trove, and our Lonely Sage Sark.
I didn't realize that Syraniss hadn't checked these when he got the key immediately, so he had quite a few chests available where the canal could have been, with all of Dwarf Cave, and I don't think I saw him go back to Northwest Castle to get that canoe, to look for that canal, so it was a good gamble that he made to go straight to Marsh.
And he celebrates by clicking on our Lord and Savior, Hooray Dwarf. By far my favorite NPC in the game. It's just an anti-tilt button. Always helps.
Yeah, he really works to let off some steam, and if you're really excited, because it gives you a little bit of an extra second just to think about what you're doing next, and it makes everybody happy when they're watching the race.
So, at this point, 2 options for progression. Potentially the on-rack item shop, or we have the combination of the Titan's Trove and also Sarda. What do you want to find and where?
The way this seed has been going, I imagine we're going to find Canoe and Floater with the 2 Titan's Trove items, and then they're just going to be in the air and zooming around, finding everything else from here.
Personally, for me, I want to see the Opal Cheerio and the canoe, because I want to leave that in the back of your mind that you can check 2 item shops with the canoe, with the Oasis, and also in on-rack. But you could also sail around and get the volcano, get the ordeals, and the ice cave. So you could be sailing for quite a while. And we find the canoe.
Yeah, that canoe opens up a lot of the world, so we might see some pretty big route divergence after Avos picks up his canoe and with Syraniss just to see where they want to go after this.
Oh, the rod! With that, we have all of Earth Cave unlocked. However, we've gotten both loose items at this point, so it's mainly just for clear or potential chests. However, it is a fairly safe spot to check. But at this point, we have 2 orb dungeons completely open to us, and a bunch of incentive locations. But most importantly, we're sailing more.
I wouldn't be too surprised to see Syraniss at least check the first floor of Earth, and maybe if you find a good spike tile out of the 3, you grind your way up and just go ahead and take care of Earth right away. I don't know if he's really got the levels to feel comfortable trying to go all the way through Earth yet, but we'll see what he does.
That is true. With the difference in party comp, Earth is typically a valuable place to check with those spike tiles. And as Darren was talking about, there are 3 in total. There are 1 in the chest areas, and then there's 2 different spike tiles in the Hall of Giants. So you probably want to check all 3 of them, and there's a way to guarantee that you get only 1 type of spike tile as you're going through it. It's a little known practice, and you definitely want to go down to the bottom of Titan's Trove, because it'll allow you to grind a specific tile if you find a good one immediately. Seafood Party Pack and Paralisk. Now, with Lightning, the Seafood Party Pack actually isn't so bad, but it's more of a group grinding.
Yeah, and those lobsters almost always are something that's going to hit you really hard, so Syraniss just resets right out and decides to go check the rest of the floor.
Looks like a little bit of habitual play there. And what do we have from this spike tile? Arachnid. So unfortunately, we still do have deeper spike tiles in Earth that you can check as well for spike tiles for experience, but they're on Earth floor, which is fairly deep if you're going for a grind, and can be potentially fairly risky as well.
And we did find pro rings for 19,000 in Crescent Lake, so not too bad of a find with the money that they have already. It looks like everybody's got some pro rings on Avos' side. I didn't see if Syraniss picked it up, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Avos heads over to Provoca at some point here to pick up the gold bracelets and finish out the armor on those mages.
I mean, whenever you get a full set of armor for less than 30k, that's actually relatively cheap, in my opinion, for these.
Yeah, especially with the amount of money we've found. Looks like Syraniss is heading back, might be picking up those pro rings, and maybe heading to Volcano and Ice Cave to just see what the incentives are there.
But he also spots that we have chain and pro rings available. Does not want to take any sort of grinds on potentially Pete's or whatnot here, and goes straight up. So, we've had a fairly extensive fetch quest here, starting off with finding the loose canal inside of Marsh, and then having to take that all the way around to the Sages, all the way back to Nerik, and then all the way back out into the Outer Sea again to turn the Ruby to get our... So, it's been a fairly amusing seed for just go here, go there, fetch all day.
Ooh, and the katana is right there for Syraniss, so that makes that thief a whole lot stronger once you get class change. And we know that we have the tail, so he can class change as soon as he finds the airship if he wants to.
But that is a spike tile that I never want to see. 9 Badman.
Yeah, and that's gonna be guarding one chest here on the volcano floor. At least we have both loose, so if you decide to skip it, you know you're not going to be missing out of a game stopping item, but you never know. It could be the sword, like the mass mune that you're looking for, or it could be something like a defense sword or a white shirt behind it.
That's true. With finding that early katana, and it's in actually a free chest compared by pretty much a lot of the runners. You've got your end tier weapon for your ninja. I kind of rate those two fairly equally when it comes to ninjas. The Masamune just being a better item in general, just because it doesn't have a class locking effect to it, which is why it's super nice. Unfortunately, we have Thunder Iguanas, and Thunder Iguanas show up relatively commonly in this place, especially on floor 2, so you're going to really need to encounter Manip.
Yeah, and so far, these long fetch quests really play to Syraniss' experience level. He's just played this game a lot longer than Avos has, especially competitively in a racing environment, so you can see just the amount of time that he's been able to save by knowing where to route and where to go. Avos doing a good job of following the quest chains and keeping up, but Syraniss has just been doing it quite a bit longer and showing the experience by getting a little bit of a lead here.
So this particular trap tile is going to be the trap tile that replaces all of our Grey Worms on this one. So you're going to potentially see these again, those airs, when you're checking the top right chest inside of the Agma floor.
Yeah, and Air's actually rolled pretty low on health today, so it looks like Syraniss is pretty comfortable taking this, at least for a full party grind here. Level 13 already, not too bad. Looks like he might even take this a couple times to get safety going on through the volcano. I think if you get to level 15 or so with this party, then you can head out, use a house, get all your spell charges back, and keep going throughout the dungeon. Avos picked up his canoe there at Titan's Trove and following along, gonna go check out what Sarda has, and we'll find out all the information that Syraniss has, and he'll be making his decisions on where to route after this shortly. So he does pick up his rod there, and just gonna keep moving forward.
Now, with these incentive locations, the only thing we are missing right now for those incentives that we cannot check at this particular point is the bottle. At this point, it's the only location, along with if we find a potential slab, we cannot go to Lufeng. The thing that I get worried about in these particular seeds is who's going to potentially find a floater early, or who's going to be in go mode, because those are two very common things that can happen in this particular flag set. You check one place, you get a floater. You check the other place, you could potentially be in go mode, and it really goes to show the difference and the time save between getting a floater early, getting a floater late, and being in go mode early but getting a versus getting a floater early. There's a lot of time save when it comes to a floater because you get to skip all the sailing, all the encounters. It is definitely something to watch out for. And where will it be hiding?
Yeah, and that's where Avos can really pick up some time if he decides to route differently than Syraniss, and say, if the volcano only has an opal bracelet where it's something that's not needed, it can be convenient, then Avos could pick up quite a bit of time if he can find all the floater early and not have to sail around or use his canoe as much. But it looks like Avos is actually going to dive right into Earth Cave.
It is an interesting play at this point. You do have the means to kill Lich. With temper, light axes, you have ice swords, so you got a decent chunk of physical damage. Now you have Sun Sword. It's a great sword. It's considered to be a third or fourth best sword in the game for an N-tier fighter knight. It is also great because it has that same effect that a finding that early ice sword has. It can be equipped by both our red mages and also our fighters. It, however, cannot be equipped by a thief.
Yeah, so and that really for Avos is a big pickup because it's now the best sword his fighter can have, and it will be the best sword that Red Wizard can use outside of Mass Mune. So it's really can serve a dual purpose as he gets better equipment for that knight or that fighter or knight as he keeps going. And it looks like he is just kind of picking up the chest switcher along the way, which is a good idea. It doesn't pay to go and check all the chests that are, quite a ways out of the way. Some of them can take 30 seconds or so to get to, so really not worth the time if you've got the two loose items. And he's got the gear and quite a few levels here, so it should be alright with Earth Cave unless something really has a bad spell. And so I think he's got a really good chance of getting his first orb here in less than 50 minutes.
That is a very nasty trap tile on the red D chest. Ambushing ghosts. Kill off his black belt, but he does find the opal Cheerio. There's our last kind of womp womp with finding the incentive location being that. It's nice to find, as it is the best armor in the game for a black belt outside of being high enough level, and that level I believe, if I remember correctly, is I want to say it is 42 actually. 42 is actually when it switches over, because if I remember right, the opal bracelet has 32, per ring is 8, and you get a single point from a rip.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's right around that 40.
It's 34, sorry. It's 34. Okay. So I didn't have that wrong. It's 43 in mine.
Yeah, and with these flag sets, I don't think you're going to see that black belt get up that high. It's usually going to be 32. If you really want to be in the 20s, you could probably go in the 20s, but 32 just makes life a whole lot easier for a black belt. And the main reason for that is because at 21, 32, and 42 are the breakpoints for black belts to get extra hits on their attack. So those are usually what you're shooting for if you're running a black belt, is minimum on a slightly easier flag set, at least for bosses, is 21, and then 32 is your next safety point.
And the big thing though is once you get to that 21 point, you're going to rapidly move up in strength per hit. That's why 32 is such a huge upgrade, with getting 2 additional hits at much higher strength points. And then you have the Fist of the Heavens, which has 8 hits at 42. And at that point, you can just start one rounding bosses on your own against like lower tier bosses, and it becomes a massacre machine.
And Syraniss does go and pull carry right away, so we've got our Fiend fight. Looks like tempers for days going out on that black belt. Even with some of the red mages being pretty low, he's gonna get ramped up pretty quickly here. 337 damage on that hit, and just keep throwing tempers on there and should be able to take him down as long as carry doesn't hit that black belt too hard.
And at 42 minutes and 50 seconds, we have our first orb lit by Syraniss, the Orb of Fire.
Yeah, and that's really good for Syraniss. That Opal Cheerio was a little bit of a disappointment. If Avos decides not to check or does the other incentive locations first, he would know that he can skip that area, which would save just a little bit of time, but you still have to go through Volcano anyways.
As we have Avos pulling Lich today. So with 2 light axes, a sun sword, I see him pretty dead quickly, especially if you wanted to just start spamming that those light axes. But going with a different play of using some tempers, some lightning 3 cast a fast on that.
Yeah, and it looked like Avos was a little bit worried about Lich here. He went and put that fighter in the back just for the extra safety, which I think is a good idea if you feel like you're lower levels, and does go through, takes out Lich without too much of a problem.
So just 1 minute behind at this point between our runners lighting these orbs. So very, very close in the means of lighting.
Neither one likes that seafood party pack. Avos just resets out right away and decides to keep going along his way.
Yeah, at this point, you found a lot of loose items. You've already gotten your canoe, and there are a lot of incentivized locations still left on the board. I can understand just skipping levels and just trying to grab some levels as you're going through these incentivized locations.
Yeah, I think with Avos' 3-man at level 14 already, you probably don't need to find a grind tile if you can't find one, because you can get into mid-20s going through just Sea Shrine and through the Air Shrine once you get there, just by taking fights as you go.
And again, with Lightning 3 as a good clear spell at level 2, you're pretty much set. Like, I always like to find at least one great clear spell, and getting it that low means you're going to have a lot of charges when you're starting to get into these mid.
And Avos is kind of showing off some of the encounter manipulation along the way with the resets after using a tent or cabin, which I know is something that's pretty new to him. A couple weeks ago, he was asking me after a race of exactly kind of what I was looking for and some of those things. I think it was even when you and I raced, Caillou, that he was asking me about some of the encounter manipulation I did, because he was trying to figure out exactly what to look for with that encounter manipulation. So showing off some of the skills that he's learned over just the last month or so.
Yeah, and I'll just give a brief kind of tutorial on how to do it. Like you were saying earlier, the 2 most important things that you're going to be using are the overworld and save scouting. Now, your save items are your tents, your cabins, and your houses. What I'd try and do when you're first learning encounter manipulation is pay attention to how to do a hard reset and a soft reset. The hard reset resets your encounter back to 1 out of a maximum of 8, and your soft reset basically keeps your spot in the encounter tables and your step count, and moves you on as you took that fight. So what you're going to do is you're ideally trying to find something in the first 4 as a long run. There's a couple ways to do it. You can count your steps, or you can do something like I do, which is sing along with the theme music of the game. It's an easy way to kind of get into your head how long to do it. The important thing to note is there are 2 different things. There's the overworld and the sea, and they have different encounter steps where they can be having an encounter on.
Yeah, and that is a really good overview of it, and I love the encounter manipulation. You can find decent open world grinds sometimes if you get a short first encounter or second encounter, or you can get some really good hero runs and avoid fights altogether on the open world. Looks like we do have a major route divergence as Avos decided to go check ordeals, and probably my guess would be going to check Waterfall and the item shops down on this continent before even going to Volcano, where Syraniss is in the ice cave. So this could be a big decider in this match, depending on who goes where and when they go there, based on who finds the floater first.
Well, we found the Zeus Gauntlet in the bottom 6 chests of ice. That is another great item. It casts Lightning 2 when used in battle, and it makes an excellent item to put on something like the Thief.
I don't think... Yeah, Syraniss didn't use the warp trick, so he must not have warp yet, and I don't know that we've seen it, so it might be only Avos who can learn it with that Black Mage. So that could save him time if ice is required, or if ice isn't required in the end, we could see Avos skip Ice Cave completely.
And the warp trick he's talking about is in the incentivized chests that have the triangles. There's a bunch of pitfalls. So what you do is you go into the very back one or the very front one. The back one allows you to access all 3 of those chests when you warp back up, or the front one allows you to quickly check that trap tile and the incentivized chest.
Cheeseinator is asking if we've seen any good grind tiles for Kick yet. The only really decent grind tile that we've seen was Metal Slimes up in Temple of Fiends, but Syraniss, I don't think, has checked those chests, so... And that's really more of a party grind, or at least a 2-man, but nothing great solo yet.
The Metal Slimes, again, are nice, but I don't think we have a great fire clear spell either, and we don't have the Mage Staff either, which is really what you want if you're going to do that, because it allows you to 2-man down. You can just use a Red Mage and a Black Belt at that point, using 2 fire casts and typically clear them, because they actually rolled up on health this time, so you're going to need at least 2 fire 2 casts.
Avos getting a little bit tripped up by this pillar maze. We'll see if he makes it through, but Syraniss does find that floater in Ice Cave, so that'll save him some time.
Ah, Len the Cat, one of our old veterans in the game. Is this even randomized? Well said, my good friend, well said, as the Ice Cave is the location of the vanilla. But, you know what, to that I'm going to say, yeah, Matoya's was definitely randomized, Len the Cat. If you were here earlier, Pro Ring, Adamant, Tail, Matoya's 3-chat.
I think this gives a huge advantage to Syraniss, partially with just his party composition, where he doesn't need to check hardly any chests for the rest of the game. With that Black Belt, if he can grind it up high enough, he doesn't need gear. And, you know, he's now, with being in the air, he can just go and fly to these locations and save a bunch of time traveling over using the boat.
Now, while we were doing that, we found 2 of the best items in the game for that particular night, with the dragon armor being found in those chests, and in the top right chest here, we found the Excalibur. We found music in the incentivized location, so, again, kitted out Avos at this point. Fire's going to have some great end-tier gear, find some rock golds here. Unfortunately, really doesn't have the means to kind of take them out.
Yeah, and once Avos goes to Ice Cave and gets that floater, won't have to check any chests either for the rest of the game.
Like, rock golds there with the Sun Sword and the Ice Sword on your Red Mage, Red Mage, you could actually clear those out if they didn't roll up too high on health at level 15 or so. Your Sun Sword should be hitting relatively hard. I'd roughly estimate it hitting against those rock goals around probably 200, and your Red Wizard would probably hit around the early 100s at this point against them, depending on Absorb, of course. But, like, those are some decent XP. With only 2 of them, that's not that dangerous, especially since you have the Flame Armor on your Knight, who's going to soak up a majority of the hits. You could have taken that fight for some additional levels, but again, running this 3-man, you don't really need the levels as badly as Syraniss does.
Yeah, and Avos clears out ordeals, finds that loot. Now it looks like he's heading up towards Crescent Lake, so he could be going Ice or Volcano next, which would be a a big boon for him if he decides to go up to those two, because we know that that's where the floater is, his ice cave. If I were him, I probably would have gone check waterfall and check those two shops right away and lost a bunch of time.
Yeah, the only downside of checking that is you're basically making a gamble that the shop item or the waterfall is going to be holding your Oxy Elk, as you don't really want to go back up there twice. Yeah, the story of this seed. 2 loose found in Matoya's. Lots of quest chains after finding a loose canal in Marsh Cave. And now it's just had a lot of route divergence between these 2 runners. We really do not have that much of a clue of how much a runner particularly has a lead. Syraniss has checked both Volcano and has checked Ice at this point, and Ice having the better item with Floater. But Avos has checked Ordeals at this point, which has loot, which is required to complete the game. So Syraniss will have to do Ordeals at a certain point.
And welcome into Speed Gaming 5. Thank you very much for that raid, and we hope you enjoy some Final Fantasy Randomizer action here. And as you may have caught the end of Caillou's recap there, but both loose items have been found, and the runners are just going through making their incentive checks. Each one has an orb lit, Avos with the Earth Orb, and Syraniss with the Fire Orb. And looks like Avos is heading to the volcano, gonna get his Fire Orb lit by the end of this dive, and he'll find his Opal Bracelet, which is an incentivized item that isn't required to finish the game. It's nice armor, and so we do know that Syraniss found the floater in the ice cave, and he's going to be in the air real shortly right here.
Now at that point, this is a crucial thing, because there are a couple fixes that we've actually had since I believe this is the first tournament that's actually included these changes. With both the Thief hit growth has been doubled, making the Thief a great mid-tier character, especially once he gets a tail in like a Katana or a Masamune, when he turns into a ninja. But also, there is the MDEF fix on, which means no matter what happens when you tail promote, you are going to be going up in stat growth. Now, people who've played this game before remember that black belts, you typically do not want to class promote in the vanilla game because they have a 4 defense magic defense growth, and when they promote to a master, it only becomes a 1. Now, with that being said, there have been arguments before that, that doesn't seem right. Every class should actually promote and get better. So what they did is they changed the black belt's growth to 3 and have the master at 5. So the master, when you level it up, gets an absurd amount of magic defense, to the point that, you have pretty good defense even against instant death spells with how much magic defense you have. Oh, it's swapped to 3 to 4. Okay, it's not 5. I'm erred. Thank you, Cheesinator. It's 3 to 4.
Yeah, and I do believe that actually it is still the vanilla MDEF, so you don't want to change your black belt first in this flag set. I did just have to double check it because I was going, man, I'm 5 weeks in. Did I read that incorrectly? But it does look like it's still the vanilla, which gives you that tension on the black belt, but there's so many different changes that have been made to this randomizer. It's really great if you're interested in checking it out. There's so many different options out there. And it looks like the fairy gave us the crystal, which Matoya gave us the Thor's hammer. So it would have been rather late to find those 2 loose items if you had gone to Marsh early and not checked Matoya.
Now, we do know that these red Ds have a decent chunk of health, but with Ice 3 helping you clear them out, they still have over 400 health, so it's gonna be a longer slog of a grind because, again, these red Ds have rolled up on health, and they actually have some decent absorptive well. But you get some good rolls from Ice 3, which has some of the it's the highest base damage for an elemental spell in the game, actually having a 80 to 320 range, and these particular enemies, the red Ds, are weak to it, which means it does an additional, I believe, if I remember correct, 40 damage off of its base rolls.
Yeah, Yeah, I believe you're correct. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Syraniss takes that fight again, because it is really good experience, especially with just 3 characters. Looks like he's gonna go right out, and Avos has actually made pretty quick work of this, the volcano. Picks up his opal bracelet, and he's gonna be going on and taking on Carrie in just a second here.
Well, it makes a lot of sense here. You have a dragon armor and an X-Cal already, in addition to a sun sword. He doesn't really need a lot of more items. Potentially, he may want a second. But again, we had at level 2 life, so your knight can learn life. I see what you mean by more elementals, with the stack of chips being our fires today.
I don't know if I had seen this stack of chips sprite before, so I was just laughing here, but I know that his airs and waters are the dice, and I don't believe we saw the earths on the way through, so maybe we'll see him in the Temple of Fiends to see if it's another stack of chips or if it's something different.
Since they use the same sprite, I am assuming that they'll probably be the same. As we have the Carrie fight now from Avos. We have our second team fight from Avos. We have Syraniss going through and checking out the waterfall on-rack area. Carrie, she gets hold. We have a paralyzed Carrie, everyone. This became... Oh man, that is a huge, huge find there. With Temper there and Fast at level 5, you can get through this fight now. Carrie is completely stun locked. Carrie has a chance, a 25% chance to break said stun, but is not doing it, as we have ample turns to get our stats up on this knight to finish off.
Yeah, that was a really good play by Avos. Carrie is only weak to status effects. She's not weak to any of the elements, so it can make for quite a slog of a fight if you're trying to use elemental magic to try and take her down.
As we have Syraniss going through, and he is working his way through the waterfall cave. At 59 minutes, Avos has lit his second.
Looks like he's going back in. I think he may have skipped the armory area on his way in the first time. So yeah, it looks like he's just going to go and check all of those chests. Make sure he didn't miss any ribbons or any major items that can be hiding in that large, dense area of chests right on the first floor here.
Now, with that, Avos has checked the armory, decides to get out, and we have the cube. So, Robot's playing some dice games in the...
Yeah, and so now Sky is open to Syraniss completely. We still haven't found the Oxiel, which we did find this slab in Onrak as that vendor item, and I believe that's going to be what is hiding our Oxiel, so we're going to have to go to Lefane to turn it in, because I think we've turned in just about everything else at this point.
So, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently the river's not safe, because we have the Bane of all piranhas, Caribes with...
Oh, and they're unrunnable, which makes life even better.
Yeah, especially since they tend to show up on large packs as well. You can see 6, 8 on the rivers here. It's definitely something that encounter manipulation really does make your life easier once you...
Evo's heading back to town. I hope he's just getting heals so he can go and take on the ice cave. I would think that if you're up here, you're going to go take the ice cave right away because you have the canoe and you know that there's an incentive there, and hopefully he will, because then he'll find his floater and get into the air here.
again, I like this play that he went to do Volcano first. It has something you have to complete the game anyway, so in case you didn't need to go to Ice, it was a great play to go. Looks like he's going to use a ship to get around, which is a valid move. You already know these river systems are particularly nasty, so he's going to take the ship up and probably check Ice.
Yeah, that'll cut out a lot of his river travel. Made me a little bit nervous when he started to sail away, and I think almost everybody's pointing towards ice here, but he could have been making the gamble of waterfall, and we know that it would have been not what he wanted to find, but Avos at this point still is blind to that, and, you know, still just trying to find that floater, which we know is in the ice cave here.
But yes, there are 2 items that we still need to find at this point. The Oxy on the loot for Syraniss. Now, we have the loot was found in Ordeals earlier, and at this point, the slab turn-in is still available, and the bottle turn-in is still available. Which means one of them will be the Thor Hammer, and the other will be our essentially no-mode item of Oxy.
Yeah, and Syraniss just hit level 21 here on his 3 people, at least, for the black belt and the 2 red mages. So that black belt is going to be quite a bit stronger, gets an extra hit, and he's really going to start doing some damage to the enemies here. Unrunnable Ankylos are never an enemy that I want to find. They have far too much health, and they don't give you much for what you have to do to take them down. And you can just see Syraniss is really fighting this one. It's taking a couple rounds. It just takes a lot of time for a little bit of return on investment.
Yeah, the armadillos are just not fun to fight against most of the time. I definitely agree with you there. Avos finds his Aegis shield. So we have the poor man's ribbon for the knight when he promotes at this point.
Yeah, he's pretty well set in terms of his gear. Just has to go through and find this floater, and then he'll probably be heading down using that tail right away to get promotion. Give his knight the best gear that he can, and keep going through his incentives.
We have Syraniss approaching the Ordeals dungeon, which, you know, those teleporters weren't really that bad today. They can be particularly nasty, and it's another great opportunity if you want to take some levels there. There's some high-yield experience enemies inside of Ordeals. Ideally, in my opinion, trying to find something like a 5-pack of Medusas is a nice one. You have the Zombies, again, both weak to fire, and you can also have, like, the mummy encounter with some whiz mummies.
Yeah, and there are 3 spike tiles here in our deals. One which we don't see checked all of that often, but we'll see if Syraniss checks the top right room on this floor to see what is behind that spike tile. It could be 3 eyes, and then you just go ahead and get your probably a 2-man grind with where that is in order to keep a life spell available, and you are set for the rest of the seed.
Yeah, the 3-eye grind is definitely one of those up there. Whenever you find it, it is a primo spike tile whenever you're running a black. Green Medusa's another great one to find. I'm trying to think of anything else that would be really good. Well, we did see the metal slimes earlier again, but fire, not really.
Yeah, the only other one that's kind of up there that comes to my mind is the Saurias, which is not as good as the Medusas or the Three Eyes, but it's still a pretty acceptable grind tile, especially if you're doing just 1 or 2 people. And that's not what Syraniss wanted to see at all.
Yeah, I agree with Syraniss there. Checking the claw twice. But we do, however, find the Bane Blade. Avos did find the Bane Blade there in that group there. Bane Sword casts Bane and picking up his floater, so Avos should be in the air relatively shortly as soon as he gets out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how this all shakes out. Avos has the Orb lead and knows that he doesn't have to go back to Earth Cave, where Syraniss can just go mode it, but Syraniss definitely has an advantage on those incentive checks, so I would probably give an advantage to Syraniss at this point, but Avos definitely has a good chance of catching up, especially if he can make the right incentive checks or find the right items along the way. Syraniss decides to just leave that dragon armor there because he can't use it anyways.
It's essentially money at this point, and for the most part, you really have everything you really need. I believe that they've got Noble Bracelet, they've got a couple gold that I believe Syraniss has found. I think he's also bought one, and I'm pretty sure he's got fur rings on across the board. He doesn't really need anything more for money-wise, as we've also already gotten the shop item at this point, so it's mainly just for potentially houses or some heal potions, but again, as you're killing these enemies, you're going to have more than enough money for the rest of the seed.
It'll be interesting to see if Syraniss takes on these rock ghouls, because it doesn't look like they're too bad, and that black belt can take them out with 1 hit, so could be a decent spot to stay and get a couple levels if he wants.
I like it. De-equipping everyone else with their armor. He's going to go for a grind here with the rock gold.
Yeah, if you're running a black belt in these seeds, I think about an hour is where you stop looking for spike tiles and you say, okay, this is the best that I've found so far, and I can definitely take it with a single character, and I'm not too far from an exit, so gotta take what I've found and get my levels where I can, otherwise you just keep spending more and more time trying to find the right grind.
And considering things, like rock ghouls are actually a pretty good grind talent, all things considered, especially since they rolled pretty low actual hit points. The black belt is able to one-shot them at this level, no matter.
Yeah, and I think he's pretty committed to at least a 1 or a 2-man grind, because he's just attacking with those unarmed red mages, just trying to buy some time for them to take some damage, so looks like he's gonna get his wish pretty soon here, and that black belt should be able to do pretty quick work on these rock ghouls.
I just saw Squint there. Now, if I remember right, Syraniss does have a ribbon, but correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Squint can't actually hit you.
That I'm not sure. I was thinking that I don't know if it's death magic possibly, where the pro ring would help against it too, but it'll be interesting to see if he makes adjustments. Looks like is keeping that red mage in the 3rd slot. We'll see if he heals it up. Okay, and Ray Fates Caleb in the chat is saying that Squint is resisted by Pro Ring, so it's not too scary. It's a 3 and 256, which we've all been hit through a 3 and 256 before, but you have to make those chances when you find a grind tile that you find acceptable.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if it's status or death, and that's a big one. But it's one of those where you're still memeing at this point on a grind, and when in doubt, the game will take it when you meme on it.
Yeah, especially with that 19,000 for 4 of them on one character, you can get your levels pretty quickly, so worth taking this fight, I would say.
Now the question is, how far do you take this? Do you just stop at 32 since you only got one orblet? Do you want to go up to like a 35, 36?
We could even see Syraniss stop at 30 or 31 and decide to take a couple more fights along the way to get to that last level. 32 I would think is a good safety. I don't see him going up to 42 though to get that extra break points, but we'll see.
I don't either. If you really still need the levels at that point to defeat something, there is a Topher of all Tophers there, if you need one punch man to...
Abel's got his floater. Looks like he did go and promote right away, and so he stopped in Provoka, got some spells on that knight, and gonna go turn in his crystal to find a Thor's hammer. Just resets right out of it back to Provoka. Doesn't even want that Thor's hammer.
That is unfortunate, because that was one of our last two checks, Lefane and Matoya's, to turn in that crystal that we got from the bottle earlier, and that means Lefane is required.
Yeah, and so that was our vendor item in Onrak. So you're gonna have to double dip that southern continent in order to find your Oxiel, because that's gonna be where the Oxiel has to be, behind that slab. So you have to go down to the southern continent, go to Onrak, get your slab, go back up, fly around a bit, just to come back down with the Oxiel and take on the Sea Shrine.
Yeah, I mean, but still, like, at this point, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. We know where all the required items is from a standpoint of the observer, not from a standpoint of the runner, because again, Avos has not done the waterfall, but he knows it's got to be something there. And he's checked every other location outside of Slab Lefane. So he doesn't know exactly where the things are, but he knows he has to do both. So at this point, I'm going to say there is a slight advantage to Syraniss at this point, because once he hits Go mode, he's got a high level black belt. He does not need any more items. He can just straight up Go mode the rest of these dungeons.
Yeah, looks like he's heading to Lefane to turn in that, to get his item, and then he'll be in Go mode. I didn't see where he stopped his grind, but you can promote if you want to get that ninja and throw a katana on him and have 2 decent damage dealers.
Yeah, considering he's always finished his grind at this point, yeah, you could put that, the flame armor, the katana, and have a really decent thing. You could also start getting some spell charges on that ninja at this point as well. As we did have temper at level 1, so, and it's always nice to have extra temper charges. So, just to answer some questions in chat. So, these dungeons have kind of 2 forms that you can attend them. Earth, fire, water, and sky have 2 forms, either the checking mode or the go mode. The go mode, typically, in my opinion, on a good volcano run is between 3 to 5 minutes. It is the fastest out of all of them, because it has a lot of damage tiles that you can kind of move through quickly. Earth is slightly behind it. I would estimate that between 4 to 7 minutes to get through. C is also another short one, since it is, you only just go up the left side straight up to Kraken. That's in between around Volcano range, around 3 to 6, depending on how many unrunnable red Sahag with Sahags you get. And Sky is the longest one, typically taking between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on encounter rates and whatnot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many chests they decide to check. I think we only have one ribbon at this point, and we don't have great access to
Blue stake.
two, so... Nice. I always like to see a blue steak. Looks like Syraniss is gonna test it out and see just how meaty this steak is today.
Oh, so for chat there, we just found the T-Rex. It is one of the rarest encounters in the game. If I remember right, it shows up on slot 8 of that kind of area in the desert, in vanilla. And it is an incredibly rare find. It has the, if I remember right, the second best experience in the game after Warmac.
Yeah, I believe you are correct, and it has some of the highest magic defense, so elemental magic against it doesn't typically work out very well, but having a nice 32 black belt, you can take it down pretty quickly.
But yeah, those mummies are quite cold today, just blizzarding down the party. Now, luckily, we have this high-level black belt that can clear through a lot of stuff, but again, like, having to use a bunch of heal pots here, getting lucky getting out, because that 3 Wiz Mummy could have been easily death to a lot of his.
Yeah, as Guelph, our tracker, is calling them the Blizz Mummies. Ooh, sea snakes are not good, which is going to be really scary in Sea Shrine.
Oh man, that hurts. Glanced. Just a straight up glance down the board.
It looked like Glance and Stone Poison too, so they are going to get you stoned no matter what they do.
Yeah, and I believe that, again, I don't know if Syraniss checked the Topher ribbon, because that was the only ribbon we found so far, so it's mainly rolling against magic defense on that plaque. But yep,
Yeah.
as we are confirming right now, no ribbon on the black belt. 0 ribbons right now for Syraniss.
I wonder, I would be tempted to check at least the greater than less than room here to see if maybe a ribbon landed in there, knowing that you don't have any right now.
But yeah, like, that is a terrifying find there. Sea snakes appearing with the stone glance there, and Wiz Mummies with Blizzard. This particular Mirage dive is quite deadly. Wiz Mummies with Blizzard into Cremate too. Oh goodness, they're antipode Wiz Mummy.
Avos looked like he was trying to go to the Sea Shrine, but forgot that he didn't have the Oxiel, so got turned away until he can get that Oxiel, and gonna have to go follow that slab to find his Oxiel. So we'll see. Hopefully Syraniss gets a good turn order here against these. Oh, he gets ambushed by the sea snakes. Glance is so far ineffective, there's 1 stop. 2 stops from the stone poison, and they're just gonna keep doing stone poison because it looks like it's Glance into stone poison. Gets through with 2 characters. Hopefully, glad to not see that for the rest of the air shrine or the air temple, but man, it's gonna be quite the fight through the sea shrine. Syraniss going right through Sky 1, not even going to take some of the greed chests of the rooms on the right or left for, I think one has 5 chests and the other one has either 4 or 6, and just going to keep go-moding, doesn't want to check any other items. Those were sea snakes, the Starman Zero, and they had glance and stone poison. So if they miss you with the glance, they're going to come right back with the stone poison, and they're going to try to stone you with that.
But we are in the maze right now, which means we are rapidly approaching the Bridge of Destiny. If you want to see the robot chicken today, get your blessed RNGs and...
And that wipe and the couple times that Syraniss had to make it through on that sea snake tile gave Avos just a little bit of time to catch up here. He's gonna go get into his go mode in Lefane.
So Avos has now picked up the Oxyale, leaving Lefane. He now is in go mode. He has one more orb lit than Syraniss at this point. As we have the Woodian special, the 4 red hydras, some good HP there. And we also have some
nachos.
Nachos! Unfortunately, no robot chicken today. So we got fed by nachos, but we didn't get some fried chicken. As Tiamat is pulled by Syraniss at the 1 hour and 23 minute mark, getting some tempers in on those black belts and a fast. Gonna swing 6 hits for 125. Little bad turn order as the black belt attacked first, but that thief in the first slot is just gonna go for a Bane Sword. Ineffective. It's about 23% chance to work against Tiamat as we're getting in another round. Fast temper hits in for 356. 2 rounds more of temper coming in on that black belt. Tiamat has taken 500 damage at this point. Bane Sword yet again ineffective. Decides to wait with the thief and swing in. At this point, Tiamat should be getting low. This swing should do it, and it does. 12 hits, 11, 1118. So we had over 1,000 damage dealt to Tiamat from one swing. That's what you see from a high-level black belt. Pow!
And Avos is right in there. It gets right through the sea snakes. Only one character gets turned to stone. He's right behind Syraniss. If he go modes this sky castle, he's gonna be right up there as Syraniss goes and gets his party class changed. I think we're gonna see pretty much a sprint to the finish as Avos has just to finish out this air, the floating castle and the sea shrine, where Syraniss has to go through Earth Cave and the sea shrine, and it's gonna be pretty even between them going into Temple of Fiends, depending on just how many chests Avos decides to check along the way.
This is true. Again, Avos did Earth first out of all the orbs, so they are even in orbs right now, and Avos is already into Sky. I think Avos is looking for a second ribbon, as our tracker is indicating. Guelph, thank you so much for tracking today. And also to the Speed Gaming family of networks for hosting this, helping us host this tournament. We thank you for your contributions. But yes, Avos looks like he's grabbing some of the higher density chest areas. He checked the 5 side on floor 1 of Sky. He may check the 6 side or the free chest on floor 3. He's probably looking for a second ribbon at this point. Again, he already has one, something that Syraniss does not have. With things like Crack still in the pool here, that could always be dangerous.
Yeah, the only other really nice item at this point, obviously Massbean would be nice, but a white shirt would be great to give you some evade stacks. That Invis 2 at level 6 I think was Red Wizard learnable, but I don't know that either runner has gone back to try and learn it.
Yeah, these sea snakes are just proving to be a pain, and they also have a decent ambush rate from the looks of.
Yeah, and that's where that ribbon on Avos' side could be a major advantage with having at least one person resistant to the stone.
But again, Avos is on the Bridge of Destiny. Will we get a robot today?
And he's pretty sure that he's on a different encounter cycle, so there's a decent chance that we could find. Yeah, we're definitely going to find something different, whether we find a war mech or not.
Avos does have one ribbon currently. Fortunately, these metal slimes, just, he's trying to take it for the EXP, but it's just getting to the point where it's becoming dangerous. But again, Cure 4 at level 1, Life at level 2, we've had some great white magic today. Both of them were learnable by the Red Wizard and the... As it is, the Quad X is the death element, the Zap is the time element.
Yeah, and Steel Golem pointing out the dice on Avos' side for that character sprite. He's got dice, and then fires are a stack of poker chips going along with the casino theme for the tournament here.
Okay, we may have one more encounter here. Will we get the robot chicken? No takeout today. We didn't stop in Cornerian fried chicken. Team up fight pulled. We're going with some Brack strats and some swings. Brack, ineffective. Going in with some Cure 4 on that Red Wizard. Again, with some more Brack strats. 8 hits for 418 damage. Now, we don't know exactly how much it has, as a Brack isn't yet ineffective, because we had that huge swing from the Black Belt to kill it, but we are at around 500 yet again. Tiamat...
Avos abandons the Brack strat. Gonna just temper up his fighter. I think that's a good idea at this point. Just keep dealing more and more damage.
About 900 health from Tiamat. Kraken pulled. 279. Tiamat down on Avos' side. Kraken coming out with some fire. You always want to see Kraken using spells over whacking, because Kraken always be swinging in. 9 hits for 390. Okay, so we're getting into about the 600 range from this Kraken. 4 hits, 143, 750. Whack! Red Mage down. 283, come back. Another 181. Kraken rolled up HP and some strength today. He is coming into play. We're at around, I believe, the 1300 mark, so Kraken rolled very high today. Down goes the ninja. 664, whacks back, Kraken down. We have the water orb.
Yeah, and that was level 32 onto that black belt, so that's gonna hit that next break point. Syraniss is at a good point to do even more damage, but that high absorb Kraken could pose some problems for Avos if he decides to just go in and fight with only one damage dealer, where Syraniss at least had the backup of the Thief, putting in a decent amount of damage there too.
So I want to make a note here. We had a second coming. It was all you could eat blue steak today, as both runners have found blue steak today. And eaten.
Guelph is pointing out in his notes a little bit less than a minute between both of them getting their third orb, so we're gonna see Syraniss can go through Earth, and Avos can run right through Sea Shrine if he wants to. That ribbon should make his Sea Shrine clear a little bit quicker without having to worry as much about sea snakes, and it'll be an interesting sprint to see who can get into the Temple of Fiends first.
This is going to be a case of how many times his party gets stoned as they're trying to get away from these sea snakes, how many unrunnables he runs to. Because at this point, we know they're particularly dangerous. They're going to remove run chances from there, and that's going to add some time to your actual go mode at this point, to running through the Sea Shrine. As Syraniss takes Earth, which is a longer dungeon, he's going to have more encounters, but again, he doesn't have near as many dangerous enemies.
I think Syraniss forgot about the Earth Cave.
Yes, he did. That's unfortunate. That can happen. You're in the seed, you forget that you had an opportunity to do it earlier and you didn't want to do it, and you forget that, oh, I actually didn't do Earth Cave. It does happen. These mistakes do happen.
I can sympathize with Syraniss completely. I was about halfway to the Temple of Fiends in one of my races, and realized that I hadn't done Earth Cave yet, but I didn't quite get to the orb, but it's real easy to do.
As we have Avos already on Sharknado floor. He has one more floor as soon as he gets to the staircase to get to Kraken, his final orb. Syraniss is in Earth currently. He is on floor 2. He's rapidly trying to make his way through, but bat blocked.
Yeah, Avos is really running right through and seen a lot of these just sea trolls and lobsters with no sea snakes. I don't know that we've seen a whole lot of sea snakes on the way through, which is a big advantage because even if he has one character resistant, that stone poison takes quite a bit of time to go through all those party members.
And he luckily did not get an ambush like Syraniss had a couple times when he was going. Avos, on his way through the interior of floor 5, going up to Kraken. Syraniss, on floor 3, about to pull the vamp. This is incredibly close, people. I would estimate at this point, assuming a good Kraken still has a lot of health, and he has a lot of strength. That is still something at this point, and Avos really doesn't have a means for evasion. So, this could still be a gatekeeper here. Does not move the knight. Uses the ruse though. The ruse spell he does have. It's on slot 2, which means it shares cast with life, and that's important later on. Brat cast on Kraken. Using a fast on that knight. Getting that fast evaded up and getting some strength up at this point. Going again with some Brack strats. Kraken resists yet again. Will not be stoned today. Going to get some more temper charges on this knight. Swings in. 6 hits. 459. We know Kraken is rocking around 1600. So a lot of health on Kraken today. Luckily, a spell cast. Syraniss rapidly making his way through. He is on Lich's floor already. So this could be a potential pull. How quickly does Avos get through this fight? Ineffective from the quad X's. But gets the termination, and he's running up to his orb right now, gets it at the 1 hour, 35 minute mark, 30 seconds. Has to get through this river system back to his airship. Again, a longer time to get there. Syraniss pulling Lich at this point, just 10 seconds behind the kill. He's going to fast up his black belt and swing in, trying to kill this Lich as quickly as possible. Lich has rolled up some HP, he's got 555 health done to it. Fire Tooth is ineffective against this high level party comp. Again, chip damage. Going in, swinging in. 16 hit for 1369. Lich has been dealt with. Syraniss gets the meme though. He did not get to the orb yet. You have to touch this platform to light the orb. Now he gets it at the 1 hour 36 minute mark. And both of them are making a sprint toward that area, picking up any heal pots they need potentially, and then immediately going in.
Yes, Syraniss is already prepared. He's got everything that he needed because he was all set to go in before that Earth Cave dive. And Avos going to double check, make sure he's got all of the heal pots and everything. He did bring that Black Mage back, so he'll have a couple of extra spell casts going into the Temple of Fiends. So we will see. It's going to be quite the sprint as they're going to be holding hands. But that, as Kayla points out in the chat, that ribbon could be huge going through.
This ribbon is what I would consider the big point of contention here. Zap, crack, those spell death potentially. You lose your life casters. You're down to just a black belt versus just a knight. That is scary. However, the knight does have both ruse and life, but life is on the same spell slot. So how many ruse casts, how many life casts do you have available to you?
Avos is going to use up those houses and get his heals where he wants them and then head right in. Looks like Syraniss is already going down. He's gotten through that loot plate already. And then I believe Avos picked up the life magic on his knight, which would be a big advantage as well, because neither one have a red mage which can avoid a high roll nuke. So at that point, knight with life could be a big advantage over the ninja and the black belt.
So right now, Syraniss is on the floor of Earth, rapidly making his way toward Lich 2. Avos, slightly behind. He has just cleared out the block from the loot and making his way to that Earth floor. He is exactly 2 floors behind at this point.
Seen quite a few unrunnables with these golem fights and the frost dragon unrunnables already. Plus, we're going to be seeing sea snakes on the water floor, so that's really scary for Syraniss.
As we have the Lich fight, going in with just a fast strat, trying to save some spell charges, and swing in with this black belt. We know it's a 32. It hits very, very hard. 620 from the first hit. He's going to come back in, deal with Lich on this punch, and it is a 1273. Black belt, high level, hurts. Pound.
Yeah, so we know that Lich is somewhere between 600 and 1800 health, so we'll see. We might get a little bit more of an accurate count from Avos.
Yeah, this master is going to be hurting. With 2 fast casters and some tempers here, that ninja is just merely an absorption. But yes, as Cheesenator pointing out there, I do not believe that we had the Red Wizards pick up Cure 4, which was on slot 1. Nope, no, never mind, they do actually have it.
Ooh, and this fight could be nasty. He gets really good turn order against the sea snakes with that glance and stone poison. It's a scary fight to see.
We have the Kraken fight coming in from Syraniss. Fast, temper, swing, no, power bonk. He's going in with some more stats as opposed to swinging in. He's going to use that ninja once again with the katana, getting some chip damage in at 193. Kraken does not have that much absorb at this point. He's going to swing in because he knows this should work at this point. 1860. Master swings in, whack! Down goes Seafood. Again, with that ninja holding that slot there, he is basically using that ninja as a frontline tank. It is working splendidly for Syraniss. Syraniss just about to get to carry Avos on the floor of Earth. Syraniss, about the same strat. Fight, fast, temper. Is he going to swing this time? Again with the power bonk. Katana hits 143 with a couple crits. That is nice to find. Fast. Tiamat does not kill the ninja in the first slot. Again, anytime they're using a physical attack against that ninja, that is a near free turn for this master. Master swings in. 12 hits, 1855. Whack down once again. Lich, putting up some decent hit points here. It's taken him a couple turns to get through. But Syraniss is already rapidly making his way through. The power of the level 32 black belt making his way through. Going to pull the final fiend very shortly as Avos just clears off Lich at this. Going in. His fight's already set up. He's going in. He's going to hit some tempers, hit some fast on that particularly powerful black belt. Chaos comes back today. Will he have anything strong for us? No, he uses Ice 2. This is dwindling clock here at this point for Avos, because we know this master is going to be swinging back very, very hard this next turn. How hard does it hit is the question. Temper charges get through, so once again, some good turn order. Lit 2 comes through, chip damage across the board. Black belt's going to be hitting hard. Here it comes. 2347. 2347. That is a whack. Chaos is our number with another hit, 2655. Chaos down at an official time of 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 6 seconds. Avos going through on carry 2 at this point, getting some temper charges in. Cure 4, temper charges, you have some ice 3s you could potentially use. But GG's once again to Syraniss. As we are joined in chat, we have Avos on the carry 2 fight at this point. But GG's my...
carry 2, so he's in there too.
Yeah, you guys were holding hands for a good bit of this siege. You were, like, within a minute on your second and third orbs being lit.
And then we weren't, because I bumped up against the orb and Temple of Fiends, because I didn't kill.
Yeah, how did you feel about that when you got there? Were you a little frustrated?
Look, I was frustrated the whole seed, but yes, especially then I was like, oh yeah, I totally didn't go to...
Also, what did you think of those sea snakes?
I hated those sea snakes, and I spent the entire time going through seafloor just scared to death. That's one of the reasons I bought 20 softs before jumping into Toph.
Yeah, Avos had a major advantage against them because he found one ribbon in the top right of the Temple of Fiends key locked chests, where I don't think you found any ribbons at all.
Nope, I didn't get a single ribbon.
But as we have this break here in this interview, Avos is just about to pull Kraken at this point. He did not have the luxury of your massive master at this point, but his knight's still swinging hard with the Excalibur that he's been using this entire run. He has temper charges, he has fast, and he has Cure 4 and life available to him. He's using a ruse here on his knight. Doubles back? No, decides to swing in. He wants to get this kill as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, Kraken went immediately for his knight. Hit him for 300 damage. Now his knight is in a danger zone at this point against this Kraken. He's going to use some nukes here, in addition to some temper, it looks like. He's got fast and heal 3 available. Will he heal up his knight? No, he swings in with both of his melee fighters. 49 damage. 6 hits for 635, but does get the Tsushimi. But yeah, that ribbon was in the top right of Topher, and that was rough. But again, a lot of just difference in routing here. I loved your play with the rock goals.
Yeah, I saw those rock goals and I was like, okay, that's a grind I can take. That's something I can solo with the black belt. They unfortunately had Squint, I guess, which could have been very bad and made me a little scared, but it wasn't too bad.
As we're going in with some swinging strats here. Tiamat stuns. First turn. fasting in, tempers in. So now we're going to have some more temper charges in. Full offense at this point going into this night. He's going to probably be swinging in at this point. Yet again, Ice 3 chip damage for about 57 damage. We get some good turnover, get some temper charges into this night. Knight is going to be swinging after Tiamat fast. 5 hits, 953. Okay, the Knight should have enough damage at this point. It should be a cleanup as long as he gets some good turnover here, because that Tiamat can still kill this Knight. But Quad X comes through. Execution comes in, erase terminated. Avos is going on his. So what other grind tiles would you be looking for potentially then at this point? If you didn't find anything else, what would be the ideal thing?
Eyes would have been nice. Worms would have been nice. I would have loved to have found a mage stick to take against those metal slimes. Unfortunately, fire magic was at a bit of a premium this season.
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, getting some of these quick encounters right after Tiamat. But now Avos is on the final floor here. Darren. Avos going in here. He's been using this full offensive strat. He does have ruse charges here on his Knight potentially. How much do you want to use? You're putting the power bonk. He's making some plays here to put as much defense on this fighter as possible, using this ribbon at this point. That is a veteran move, putting the ribbon on there. He's probably going to do some maneuvering of his party members at this point, but is going to be using this Excalibur, which has the highest base damage that he can at this point. As he's about to pull this fight, Darren, please take it away for Avos' pull of Chaos.
Yeah, and just one thing to point out as he goes into here, Avos is a duckling. I believe his first actual online race was the first week of the tournament, so he's done a really great job. Going in, he's going to throw some tempers on that Knight. Looks like 2 tempers and a fast to start out, and he's going to use some ruse, so get himself some evasion. Ice 2 coming out, doing a little bit of damage. Not much to that Knight with the ribbon, so that ribbon's going to do a lot of work for him, and he's going to get some ruse, 2 stacks of evasion, make it a whole lot less likely to get hit. Trying to figure out what to do. Going to do some chip damage with that first black wizard. Gonna look, what's he going to do? Temper on, I think, the red mage, and then temper up that Knight. Going to do some more ruse. Lightning 3 goes out, does 42 damage. Chaos is already missing that Knight, so 4 stacks of evasion, doing a lot of work. Throwing out a zap, see if he can get a nice kill on Chaos here. Using the power of a gauntlet, gonna get some more damage onto his fighter. He's got to start swinging pretty soon here. We know that Chaos doesn't have a ton of health. Didn't roll up too far. Keep throwing out tempers. Get that Knight all the way up, and he's gonna go ahead and swing here. Fire 2 from Chaos. Some more elemental damage spells coming out. 15-19 off from that Knight. He can't have too much left for Chaos. So throwing out Quad X on that red wizard, a nuke. We'll see what the damage does, and he's going to go ahead and attack. We'll see if Quad X makes it. It does not. It is ineffective. I think that Chaos is resistant to death magic. 1795 from that Knight, so he's definitely swinging hard. Yep, Chaos does resist Quad X's. Gonna throw out his hits, 1283, and Chaos is down. Avos finishes with a time of 1:50:27 according to SRL. So really good time from Avos. Just a couple minutes behind Syraniss there. He is going to be someone to watch in the future. He's been definitely learning a lot throughout this tournament, and we will see if we can get Avos in for an interview.
Yeah, I imagine that ribbon helped with a lot more too, especially like those Fire 3 that was everywhere on the wizards.
And we do have Avos in here with us, joining us. Welcome in, Avos, and good game. Congratulations. You were only a couple minutes behind Syraniss there, but it was a really good race. You guys were neck and neck for a good chunk of it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a little disappointing to have another close race. But I'm pretty happy with my time. I knew coming into this that Syraniss was a good player, and you know the odds weren't quite in my favor. So
I heard you had a knight. I didn't hear what the rest of the party was.
I was doing the fighter red and double black.
Nice. I like that one.
Yeah, I ended up 3-manning for pretty much all of it.
Yeah, so Syraniss, I believe, are you at 3 or 4 wins now?
That's 3 and 2. I'm hoping to hit 4 and 2 and avoid that nasty last chance qualifier, because that's going to be.
Yeah, yep, I fully understand you there. And Avos with 2 wins, looking to get one next week to get into the last chance qualifier. So that'll be interesting to see. Both of you, I think, hit a really good run today. You'll be, Avos, you'll be someone to watch in the future, because I know that you came in. I believe your first race on SRL was the first week of the tournament, if I'm correct there.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch just how much you've been able to learn throughout the tournament. I don't know, I guess, do you guys have any real thoughts? Avos, what'd you think of those sea snakes as you were going through?
It's the second time I've run into snakes that could stone of some kind, so it was sort of funny because I think I'd safety bought 10 softs at one point, so it was just kind of one of those things of but I didn't really care.
I like that maneuver as always, just having those early softs. I also like your maneuver of checking those chests there. You found that early ribbon, and that only ribbon that we actually found higher seed across both runners. How did you feel with finding that ribbon that early?
Oh, that ribbon was nice. It was kind of a shame not to find any others. I knew it was going to be risky with just the one, but Syraniss and I had talked a little about what we were thinking of doing, and I know he was thinking of a black belt, so he could certainly get away with checking less chests than I could. So I really tried to skip chests where I thought I could.
You did a wonderful job, and I'll just say this right now. You guys were within 2 minutes of entering TOEFL for the first time from both of you guys. So Avos, take credence in that. Syraniss is an older runner of this game, and you are that close in times entering on these runs, and you are just starting on your journey. I am terrified for your growth at this point. Do you want to make a note here? When you're checking additional chests, did you feel absolutely comfortable when you found the Sun Sword, when you found the X-Cal? What ideally, if you wanted to check for more, I figured you were checking for an additional ribbon when you're checking Sky Palace, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. An additional ribbon, defense sword. I certainly wouldn't complain about a Masa or Vorpal, but it was more of if there's something good in there. If you're talking specifically about the Sky 1 check, I just know that that's a pretty dense bunch of chests. So, and I still wasn't quite happy with my levels. Usually when I've been 3-manning before, I was able to get into the upper 20s, and that was lower than usual.
Yeah, with these seeds, you can get some nasty rolls on the bosses. You can, in Topher, you can get some low rolls on Topher, and sometimes you see runners taking these Tophers at like the high teens, low 20s, or running a black belt at this point, like Syraniss did. And I thought I think today this is an excellent match to watch back for anybody kind of learning the game. There was a lot of things that really you guys excellently showed. Divergence in routing, with you going to ordeals first versus like making the volcano play in volcano ice play that Syraniss did. Or the fact of different party comps and different things that you need to look for when you're choosing these particular parties. It's another way to experience this game, and it's a great thing to do. With that being said, I do want to make some highlights. If you like Final Fantasy 1 Randomizer, we actually do have many more games yet today. We have Crab Cakes versus Ganon's Gone Wild later on today on SG4 in about an hour. We have Silverfire versus Leggy Starstream on RPG Limit Break in 2 hours. We've got El Markin against Faye on Randomania 2 at I believe that is 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time, and we have the midnight special between Superbled and Min the Mage on SG1 tonight as well. On the Speed Gaming family of networks, on this particular channel we have Super Metroid Zelda ALTTP Randomizer later on, and Super Mario Brothers currently going on Speed Gaming Prime. Any final thoughts there, Avos, on the seed today?
You know, for finding both loose that early, that seed took a lot longer than I was expecting.
And from our winner today, Syraniss, going up to 3-2. Any final thoughts?
Same. I was super excited to see those two loose, like practically side by side, and then to have the seed take that long afterwards, it was kind of nasty.
All right. To my co-commentator today, Darren DeRise.
Yeah,
Final thoughts.
you both asked for a nasty seed when we were rolling for it this morning, or before the race, and I told you that I usually roll jet seeds. I gave you a little bit of both. We gave you a jet seed in the beginning and a nasty seed towards the end, so I guess, kind of hit both camps on that one, and it very well raced from both of you, very well played, and it'll be exciting to see what happens next week, as Avos will be fighting to get into that last chance qualifier, and Syraniss will be fighting to try and stay out of the last chance qualifier and get into just the play-in match.
Well, with that being said, I do want to say thank you all for coming by. Thank you for Speed Gaming for hosting us up. Thank you for our tracker, Wealth35, for tracking for us. Hopefully, we see you guys in an hour for Crab Cakes versus Ganon's Gone Wild on SG4. And may the light of the 4 orbs guide us all. Good night, everyone.